just so everyone knows, we are recording this. That way we can make sure that other residents who are unable to attend today can watch this at another time. So I just turned on the recording just now that we're getting more people. Let's see, I know there's still a few more people that said they were going to join. I think we'll give a couple minutes past 6 just to make sure people get here in case anyone's having trouble. Hello. Hello.
Am I audible?
And I will say, if people can generally keep their microphone off, that would be great, so we don't get background noise. And then when people want to speak, turn it on. And I think I can also mute everyone. So if anyone's having trouble, I can just mute you for you.
You can mute yourself. So right click here, see the mute.
And just so you know too, there is that group chat feature. So you can send a chat to everyone, or you can send a chat to a specific person. There's also, okay, so it looks like the chat feature is the only feature we've got. So if anybody does want to ask a question and they don't want to speak, they want to type it, you can type it in the chat feature and I'll just periodically look at that as well. So I think we have pretty much everyone that said they were going to attend. If more people join us, then great, and I'll let them in. Oh, look, we already have another person. So maybe we need a couple minutes. Yep, we're getting more people. Oh, wow, lots more people. I wasn't expecting it. Okay, so while we see if there's just a few more people that come, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I know that when I campaigned, my hope was that we would do things like this in person, and we got a little bit slow to start with having just such a wild first few months in office. So I appreciate everyone's patience and this getting going. But now that we're here and now that we kind of know how it works, I think this is something that can happen more regularly. And just as a reminder, you can send messages through the chat and ask questions through the chat if you like, or you can ask questions just through the microphone, through the speakers. So, okay, so I think we're good. So we'll get started. And no worries, if you want to do video, great. If you don't, no problem. Whatever you're most comfortable with. But so thanks again for being here. I just wanted to give a few announcements just at the top of this, because I know people have been asking. I know that there's been concern for fireworks and just generally in Palm Springs and specifically here in the northern part of the city, hearing fireworks and people concerned about that. So I believe it was a week or two ago, I spoke with one of the captains in the fire department, and the fire department is going to be making some PSA videos in English and in Spanish that we can put out on social media and just let people know about fireworks and why they're not allowed in Palm Springs, and give some information about that, because I think it's really important that people know why we don't allow fireworks in the city and talk about the high winds and being safe and things like that. It's not really, I don't think, as effective to just tell people no. You kind of have to follow it up with the why. So that's something that's going to be happening. The other thing is I do have a friend of mine who's going to be taking notes for this meeting for me. So you won't see me taking many notes. I know a lot of you are used to me taking copious notes at meetings, but I'm going to try to just focus on all of you today and have someone else do that. And again, thank you all for everyone who emails me and contacts me about different things going on. I really appreciate it. It's, you know, we have a big district. And so without all of you kind of keeping me up to date, it's hard for me to know everything that's going on, especially right now, since I'm not able to just venture around in the same way that I would be prior to the stay-at-home orders. So I do love hearing from you. Keep in mind as well, sometimes you'll hear from someone named Yubi. She's the assistant for all of the council members. And so basically, if there's something that's a city event, she's the one that does that. She doesn't handle any more than stuff that's going on for all of the council members. So just be mindful of that when there's delays in getting responses back, it's because each of us council members has to respond to all of our things on our own. We don't have a lot of staff support and as far as contacting people. So that's why there's sometimes a delay in getting back, especially during council meeting times like this week. We tend to get a flood of emails, which makes it harder to individually respond to everyone immediately, but we are reading those. And sometimes you'll get a response from me after the meeting just to tell you, hey, I read this before and I just wanted to check in on you. And please too, if you email me and you don't hear back from me and it's time sensitive, send me another email or send me a text and I can actually give you my phone number that you can reach me at. Texting is super easy for me, so just give me a heads up and I'm always happy to call people as well. The number is 760-285-4902. 285-4902. And really, I'm always happy to hear from people. So with that said, I wanted to open this up to all of you. If anyone has questions or comments, this is a good time for it. And yeah, if anyone wants to start, go right ahead.
Hi, Grace. I don't know if you got it, but emailed you some of the concerns that the Upper West Side had shared, if you have any of those.
Yeah, definitely. So one of them was fireworks, which we talked about. I'm going to open up your email right now so I can see that. If I can find it. See, by the time someone sends you an email, there's already a bunch more. It gets a little wild how many emails we get. So the green zone was one of the things. So what I wanted to say about the green zone, prior to all of the COVID stuff, we talked a lot about a green zone for marijuana in the city. And that's something that I know that the mayor and I are on that subcommittee and we still hope that we can do, but it's been kind of set aside at the moment. I've always been very big on pushing us to not approve more businesses until we kind of have that up and running. That's not the same views as that my other council members have. So I'm voted down on that one. But I am working with the mayor to see if we can keep pushing forward with making that space available. But I apologize, it's a much slower process than either of us expected it to be. And so for the time being, I know I'm really reading all of those things very carefully and what's coming through, but it looks like we have a slowing down of cannabis facilities coming in, right, which makes sense because of what's going on right now.
Grace, for those of us that don't know, can you tell us what a green zone is?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. A green zone is an area that we would have in the city for cannabis businesses. So if you think about Cathedral City, they have Perez Road is kind of where they put all of their cannabis businesses. So it could be something like that. The desire in Palm Springs was for that to be further away from the city, and specifically for manufacturing and cultivation, not for retail. For retail, the thought was that it can blend in with our existing zoning codes in the city, but just that the manufacturing and cultivation has the smell to it and things which seem to be getting better right now, but are not completely foolproof, especially when you get more and more businesses like that.
So Grace, quick follow-up to that. Did I hear you correctly? The green zone is not yet established?
No, it's not established yet. It was, again, one of those things that kind of got sidetracked with all of the COVID and budget cuts.
Sure.
Unfortunately,
Okay.
sorry about that. And feel free, anyone, to jump in with questions.
Grace,
Yes.
this is Paul. Related to that, did you see that we've had meetings with Mission Springs Water District regarding the planned zone up by the freeway, the green zone that's been proposed. And in November, they're beginning construction on the sewer treatment plant that's going to service the area.
Yes.
So that was an important step forward because that was a problem.
Right. Yeah. Now that that's moving forward, that will be good. We don't have a clear estimate on when that will be done, but that's definitely helpful for sure.
And Grace, this is Mark and Don again. I hate to beat this green zone, but so then what kind of controls or what are the active plans to reduce or eliminate the extraction and manufacturing near residential communities if we don't have a green zone to put them into? Like, well, I mean, we live in Ascena, and as you know, it's becoming an issue. And I know other neighborhoods, including Demuth Park, have already dealt with it. Like, so what's the plan to protect the community from, volatile chemicals that have caused explosion in Los Angeles, et cetera, et cetera?
So one of the things that the city did before I joined council was to create those zones where we were going to have moratoriums on. And you bring up a good point that if the green zone is going to take a while, then what are we going to do in the meantime? And so I think it makes sense to raise that again at a council meeting and to relook at our moratorium, and maybe it needs to be expanded, or maybe we just need to discuss again as a group to decide what needs to be moving forward. And I'm happy to raise that at the council meeting to see if we can bring that up for the following meeting in July.
Well, thank you for taking that position. That's good to hear. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. No, I share similar concerns.
Grace, you
Yes.
said that the applications for cannabis were slowing down. Have any of the ones that are grandparented in to the areas in your residential been withdrawn?
You know what? I'm not sure. We haven't. There's lots that get permitted that don't ever happen. I can get an updated list and that can be sent around. I know that, for instance, we get a lot of requests for variances, and part of the reason we get requests for variances as far as zoning goes is because some of these businesses were permitted, but then they actually never follow through. So I think one thing that would be helpful to share publicly is what are our existing cannabis businesses and then what is actually moving forward in the process and what is not going to happen, because many of them are not going to happen. So I can get you, and I can contact our staff member on that and get that sent around.
Grace, I've been in touch with you about some of the issues that we've had at Four Seasons, the speeding, the fireworks, the gunshots, the tagging. And you very politely told me that, oh yeah, it's a petty gang and it seems to be under control. But the reality is the gunshots and the speeding and the fireworks are still happening. What is actually being done, please?
Sure. So the police are aware of all of those issues. The last that I heard from the chief, which was last week when I talked to him about this issue, was that that the gunshots were coming from some kids basically in a small street gang, and that was done. If you've heard gunshots since then obviously it's not done, and I'll let the police chief know about that. I know that there has been some confusion on gunshots and fireworks. I know that we've seen more fireworks lately that some people thought were gunshots initially, and they were actually fireworks. And that's where I'm working with the fire department to make sure that we can resolve the issue with fireworks and letting the community know what the danger is. But the police are also working with management at some of the different locations where they're getting a lot of fireworks to pin down exactly who it is, and so that they can talk with them and make sure that it doesn't happen again. And the same thing with the graffiti as well. They're aware of it. They're trying to figure out who it is. They don't have any specific leads that they've told me. That doesn't mean they don't have them, but they don't tell me everything with their investigations because I'm not allowed to get all of the information as it's being developed. As far as the traffic concerns, I know that the police have been posting up more within the last week. I requested that they host some, stay in those areas more for traffic control, which they do regularly throughout the city when we let them know, hey, there's a hot spot in this part of the town, there's too much traffic, or there's speeding problems, etc. The police will do kind of checks in those areas. We had them do that in Desert Highlands as well when there was some problems with speeding, and we found that it was pretty effective. Of course, these are kind of have to be ongoing as well. So I appreciate when people let me know if it's still happening or if the police presence helped or not. So you should see more of that right now within these next coming weeks. They won't be on a schedule necessarily because you don't want to let people know when they're there, but you should notice them more. So that's kind of what's going on with those. The other thing that might help with speeding is that we are getting a stoplight. It's going to be on San Rafael and Avenida Caballeros. So that's going to be really helpful. Unfortunately, it's still a couple years away, but I think it's a good thing overall that that's going to be going into place. And there are some signs now that are warning people to slow down.
I appreciate it. It's hard to tell, though, when you're woke up in the middle of the night, the difference between a gunshot and a firework.
Yeah, absolutely. I can understand that. And I think what we're hearing mostly, at least what the police are saying, is that it's more fireworks. So that's why I'm really hoping that the educational component with also the officers actually going and checking can hopefully alleviate that, especially as 4th of July comes up.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Grace,
Dixie Mills, Desert Island.
Yes.
I was wondering, do you have any updates on the stoplight that's they're working on for Indian and Rosa Parks?
Yeah, that's the stoplight that's going in first, actually. So that one is supposed to be done by next year, but it's in the process, on the way already. The money's already been provided and everything. So it should be next year.
Grace, this is Greg Goff here from Palermo, and I just had two comments. One is as far as the fireworks, they seem to go off every night immediately after sundown. So it'd be very easy to find out who's shooting them off just by showing up northwest of San Rafael and Indian Canyon at that time. And then the other thing is today I noticed that they've put up speed monitoring signs on both San Rafael and Sunrise, and that's really good to see because the number of people speeding and passing in the bike lane and that on San Rafael has just really gotten ridiculous. I don't know what it is during this pandemic. It seems people have just thrown out the traffic rules. So
Yeah, I have noticed that too. I don't go out a lot, but I have noticed that when I do that, yeah, there's a lot of more traffic things. So I'm with you.
Can I interject about the fireworks?
Sure,
May I?
please.
My name is David. Each night around dusk at Indian Canyon, just west of Tremview, there's a field there where there's a large fireworks show every single night for the last week. My dog is in a complete panic, and I go through this ordeal that takes me through midnight trying to calm my dog down. But I call the non-emergency police each night, and they tell me the same rhetoric. Oh, we're aware of it. Police are being dispatched and all. So finally, after a week of this, I got really frustrated, and actually a police officer showed up at my door the other night, and he said, I'm really compassionate about this. I have dogs myself. I understand what's going on. He said, the problem is we can't seem to isolate it. We have to catch them in the act. And I said, well, if you will just turn around, you'll see where it is and go for it. And so he said he would. So a few minutes later, the fireworks continued for another hour. And I got in my car and I drove up there and I sat there for an hour watching a large crowd and lots of fireworks, but no police presence and nothing was done. So I called again last night and I actually got a commander on the phone who said, we're down to 3 police officers on an overnight shift. We're, limited in what we can do. There's other priorities right now, domestic violence, other crimes. So this is kind of low on the priority right now. People are just getting excited over the fireworks. And everything that's been going on. So there's just really not much we can do. And I said, I can't imagine if you go up there, why can't you issue citations? He said, well, the problem is if a police officer goes up, they disband real quickly. And then as soon as we leave, because we have to send a police officer to another call somewhere else right away. So as soon as we go up there and they disband and then we leave and they start shooting fireworks off again. So each night around dusk, my dog goes into a panic anticipating this is going on, and it goes till around 10 o'clock each night. But we have a large fireworks gathering and a large fireworks display and pops and bangs and booms, and I just don't know why we can't. He just said, the problem is too is if we get up there and an officer sees fireworks going off, who does he cite? It's hard to determine who's the one that's actually igniting the firework. So he said we can't cite a group. We have to cite an individual. So because it's in a field, there's nothing we can do. And I just thanked him, but I just got really frustrated because I thought to hear that there's really nothing more they can do was really disappointing because this has been going on for at least a week or more, and we're not even at July 4th yet. So I just think we need to try and escalate this and try and resolve this.
Okay, well, thank you. That's helpful to know that interaction that you had with the officers. I'll talk more to the chief and to the fire department about it and see if we can figure out some better solutions than that. Because I understand that's really frustrating to be hearing so often. So I'll work with them and chat with them about kind of some of the things that you just mentioned to me and see what we can do.
Grace,
Okay.
Yes,
this is Mark Sherman. How are you?
good, thank you.
Thank you for putting this together so we could talk. I've been working with the police department for some time, starting with the 2 officers that are assigned to our Four Seasons community, Matt Crampton and Travis Gilbert. So I have reached out to them several times and have not been very responsive to my questions and concerns. I then reached out to Lisa Middleton, who also gave me some names of people in the police department, which included the captain or operations division, and talked to him several times. And then he kind of put me over to someone else. So I just feel like I was getting the runaround from the police department. So I called Lisa Middleton again. This is a few years back.
Okay.
And, you know, we talked, and, you know, nothing has really happened. And back then it was the speeding. You know where our home is situated.
Yes.
And, you know, on that corner, we hear and see almost everything. Also, since I've been working with you, I've gotten a hold of Lieutenant, where is his name? The lieutenant that you put me in.
Right.
Can't think of his name. Anyway, been getting emails back and forth from him, Michael Torres. So he and I are discussing things. And then on June 14th, Sunday night, there were a couple people drag racing down Sunrise from San Rafael going south. And then the fireworks started. So that's when I got a hold of KESQ. And like I told you, within a half hour, they contacted me at home and wanted to do a story the next day, which was Monday. They came to my house, we did the story. You know, it's a shame that the police department cannot reach out to the neighbors and give them some type of indication of what, you know, I know it's ongoing, but something about what they're doing. And because when we don't hear anything, it's like we don't think anything is happening. And I know you and I have talked, and there's a lot of things that can't be said, but you know, I see the city on next door on many occasions. You know, it seems to that the police department or somebody in the city can get on next door and just get a blurb out once in a while of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I told you, the speeding has increased, the tagging has increased everywhere. We have the fireworks that are almost nightly now. So it's just, it's a shame that this is going on the north end. And we've been going through this for some time. And somebody had to, I think, step up and bring an outside like KESQ in to, you know, talk to us, see what's going on, and get it out to the public. It is increasing on all levels, and I know the police department's having problems with some of their staff, which is unfortunate. And I know they're down to limited patrols, but it just seems, you know, this has been going on for me for several years, and it just seems like I was getting the runaround. So as I told you before on the phone, and you and I have been communicating back and forth, nothing has eased up at all. And it concerns me a lot. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that information, and I think, you know, the big thing that I'm hearing from all of you about these fireworks and traffic, et cetera, is that we really need better communication with the residents in terms of what is going on and what the police are doing and kind of the next steps that are taking place. So let me work with the chief on how that can be done.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to provide you with updates, and if that's just posting it on Nextdoor, posting on Facebook so that people can have it, you know, sending it out in the Four Seasons newsletter, other means like that. I'm happy to do that, or
Right.
through Denise with 1PS. So
Okay.
I'll talk with them and see what we can do about making sure that there's some updates.
You know, I've also reached out to our 1PS representative here in Four Seasons. Nothing, absolutely nothing.
Okay.
And, you know, it astounds me that this is going on, but yet we have representatives, other than you, that just seem to be filled. You go on deaf ears.
Mm-hmm.
I
You
need
know?
to differ with Mark Sherman. I have had discussions with him about this in the past. It was like a year and a half ago. This is Roy.
Yes, I know. I know you
Okay.
are, and I'm not going to get in an argument with you, but I'm still waiting for what I asked you about 2 years ago. So, you know,
Well,
it is what it is.
okay, well, I'm going to talk with the police chief about this and figure out what we can do to get better communication to all of you on this issue, because I understand it really affects all of you deeply, and I do want to make sure that that's addressed. So I think that's going to be the first step, is just to make sure that we have better communication on this, and that there's a plan in place, and not just sending a bunch of different officers every time, which is clearly not working. We need some more targeted measures. So I'll chat with them about that. I want to there's a bunch of questions in the group chat, so I want to just kind of go through a few of those real quickly so people have answers, and then turn it back to all of you. So the building on the corner of Indian and San Rafael is a cannabis facility. It's not, it's my understanding that it's not manufacturing or cultivation, that it's sales. And I can get more information specifically about that one. I know that that was before I joined City Council. As far as a policy on smoking within your home, so this is regarding an HOA. HOAs can make their own rules. The city doesn't control that. So HOAs, whatever rules that you have in your HOA, whether it's regarding the swimming pool or smoking, those all happen within that community, and the city has nothing to do with it. So any concerns like that, you have to bring to your HOA. Unfortunately, I'm not able to do much about it. The budget. So there's some concerns about the budget. So we obviously have a big budget shortfall. The big reason for that is that we are a tourist economy, and we get a ton of our money from the sales that come into the city, from the hotel stays, and without those things happening, we lose out. One of the things that I would really love to see us do is really work hard on diversifying our economy so that we don't have this problem every few years or so. I grew up here, and so I remember the times when it was dipped down into being a ghost town, and then came back up, and it's frustrating. So I think that we really need to work on diversifying the economy. There's also been concern about salaries for city staff. We pay people much better than people get paid in the private sector in the Valley. I think overall that's a really positive thing, because salaries in the Valley are really, really low. But that is something that can be discussed and looked at. I don't know. I don't think that's something that's going to be able to get much traction immediately, but it is something that we can discuss as we look to hire new people later on, and positions. The other thing, so with masks are still required in Palm Springs, and that's now a California mandate as well. So if you are in public, you need to be wearing a mask. If you're inside a business, you need to be wearing a mask, and that means that it covers your mouth and your nose. If it doesn't cover your nose, it's not being as effective as it could be. And so we've created, the city has created signs, we put banners up downtown, and we've also distributed signs to all of the businesses. And so then that's something that code enforcement is working on as well. They've been going around to the different businesses and checking to make sure that the signage is appropriate, and that people are following the rules. Obviously, it's really hard to completely enforce this, but we're trying as much as we can. If you know certain businesses that are not complying, please send us an email and let us know, and we can make sure code enforcement goes out there to take care of it. Let's see.
Excuse me, Grace.
Yes.
My question was about the signage there. Is there any indication, should there be any indication of what the fines are to individuals or the businesses regarding no masks?
Yeah.
And how does it get enforced? For example, recently I was at Home Depot and people were in the store there and they were without masks. I spoke to a couple of employees there. They were very reluctant to speak to the people who were in the store without masks. I spoke to the store manager and she got absolutely nasty with me.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I actually went into a Home Depot, not in Palm Springs, and it was the same issue. So I'm wondering if it's a company thing. So I'll make sure that code enforcement checks out Home Depot. But we do have fines now. At the last city council meeting, we added some stricter fines for businesses that are not complying. And so yes, that information can be made into a sign as well, and I can get that worked on. There are fines for individuals, but that's not something that's likely to happen unless somebody is really flagrant about it, because the first time someone is confronted without wearing a mask, they get a warning. And so it would have to be someone continuously causing problems. So it's not as likely that individuals will get fined.
Yeah, I think that is important to be put on the signage or someplace so that people are made aware that there are consequences to not wearing a mask other than you can't be in the store.
Right, sure. Yeah, that's a great point. So I'll talk to the city manager and see if we can get that information more widely distributed. And the other thing, just to clarify, someone was confused about the masks. If you're outside by yourself, no one's around, you don't need to wear a mask. If you're walking with somebody from your household, you don't need to wear a mask. It's just really when you're coming within 6 feet of somebody. So I think, if you're taking a walk around your neighborhood, the idea is to just bring it with you so that you can cover your face when you get near someone, but otherwise you don't need to wear it. And then I know Michael had a question. Michael, if you want to go ahead.
Good evening, Grace. It's so great to see you, even though I can't see you in person, and I really appreciate the time. I'll try to be concise. My concerns and my questions actually do with compliance related to vacation rentals, but it overlaps and is tangential to the police issue. Many of us probably saw that the Desert Sun carried a story that Palm Springs was among the top 10 destinations for Airbnb travelers since the ban on rentals was lifted. Actually, we're the only one of 2 on the West Coast. I recently had some issues with some noise, music, and had to call in. And I learned something that disturbed me. I learned that because of budget concerns, Monday through Wednesday evenings after 9 p.m., vacation rental code compliance goes to the police. I was told to call the non-emergency number. We also know that, unfortunately, a police officer has been diagnosed with the virus, and the entire graveyard shift had to be quarantined, leaving the force even more short-staffed with things like fireworks, etc. All of these things require the police, as well as presumably any follow-up on issues like businesses not complying with masks. And my concern is kind of this, in the era of defunding the police or reallocating social functions that could better be done, in the last couple of years, the city took vacation rental code compliance and put it under the police department in special program compliance, along with compliance for things like cannabis. And yet, at any one time, even in full staff, we have maybe 4 to 6 patrol officers on duty for the entire city. Now they have to deal with all of these coronavirus restrictions. It's kind of farcical to think that they can now also address vacation rental issues Monday through Wednesday. And I don't know if this was a budget cut that was made public, if it was something left to the department, but it's something that causes me a great deal of concern. Obviously we can't get immediate additional resources for the police, but it seems to me that the police should be allowed to do policing and not have to deal with code compliance, particularly on vacation rentals. If the city is going to allow the short-term vacation rentals while the state is still officially under stay-at-home order, then I think the city has an obligation to provide the kind of compliance that it promised when we passed Measure C. So I was just disheartened to learn this. I'm hoping the council is aware, but if not, I certainly want to raise it as an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for that. I'll talk to the city manager about that, because I think you're right. We need to make sure that the issues that that residents are facing are handled by the right people. And that's not, when we're talking about noise violations, vacation rental compliance, the police are definitely not the best people to have to do that. It's better to come from someone else. So I will see what we can do about changing that, or where the resources can be reallocated to actually address the concerns that you all are having, instead of it being kind of pushed aside, because that's what I'm hearing a lot of right now, and that's concerning to me as well. Shonda, I think you had a question. If you want to go.
Yes, I did. Thank you so much, Grace, for taking the time to do this, to unify all our neighbors together. I was just over at the First Baptist Church, and when you walk out to their back area, the smell of cannabis is so strong that it knocked me on my feet. Like, I did not know, because 2 blocks over you don't smell it, but then a block over you smell it over there. So I didn't catch everything you said about the green zones, but is there anything that we can implement now in order to get the cannabis facility that's at the end of the street for them to, because it's really strong. Like, I had to come home and take it a shower and it was in my hair. So, and I had to wash my hair because I smell like cannabis.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. And yeah, I've been dealing with that one as well for a while now. When I had to go to work, I used to report it myself, because at least 3 times a week I would smell it. So thank you for letting me know that it's still a problem. I know that particular facility is in the process of updating their whole system, and that was something that we did with City Council, is to make sure that was done, because there have been a lot of complaints. There was an illegal grow facility in that area which got shut down, and it seems like there's less odor issues since that happened, but they are still happening. So that hopefully once this update's done, that'll remedy that problem, but we'll just have to keep monitoring it. And I'll find out for you if there's any update on if it's been finished or not. Okay. But I'll keep you updated, because yeah, that's concerning if it's still a problem.
And one more question, with the speed bumps also in this area, I know that there's speed bumps that are supposed to go on Rosa Parks, but are there any in the works for getting the streets on Rosa Parks and Gateway paved, as well as Gateway having speed bumps? Because people are going at least anywhere from 65 to 85 miles per hour from Rosa Gardens to the light. Like, they're timing themselves how quickly they can get to the light.
There's supposed to be speed bumps going in on Tramview.
Okay.
And I think there was discussion about Rosa Parks, but I don't think that's been approved yet. I think it's just Tramview for the moment. So that's something that we can discuss and see if that can be arranged there as well. But that just involves getting the neighbors together to agree that they want that. And if a certain percentage want that, then it can happen.
And are there any updates on paving the streets at all, since the city's at a standstill right now? It'd be a good time to pave them.
So the streets that were being paved, that has all paused. Now, it can be brought up as, you know, something that we want to allocate funds to, but at the moment it's been paused with all of this. Pretty much anything that was going on that could be paused was while we were starting to figure out the budget. But if that's something that a lot of residents want, then we can put it back in. Dixie, did you have an update on something?
Yes, I have an update on Rosa Parks. There will be speed bumps on Rosa Parks as well.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I didn't realize that one was also approved. So yes, so there'll be speed bumps on Tramview and Rosa Parks then. As far as so with the cannabis facilities, the smell a lot of times is coming from the cannabis facilities that are in the industrial zone right next to Gateway Estates. Those are the problems that people seem to be having.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Dixie.
About the building on the corner of San Rafael and Indian. That is a huge building. And you're saying that it's only for distribution?
That's my understanding. I haven't, that was before I joined council. And I know I saw them doing improvements, and so I asked about it, and I was told that it was a cannabis facility. So I can get more information about their full model and let you know.
And I was under the understanding that they wasn't going to put any more cannabis in that area. There's so many of them out there already.
Right. Yeah, I'll find out. It's possible that it was one of the ones that was approved before the moratorium went in place. So I'll find out, because if that's a problem if it's snuck through without following the directions. But I know that Veronica in special projects has been really careful about that, but I'll double check.
Thank you.
As far as speeding, the speed limit on San Rafael, so the speed limit on San Rafael is 50 right now, and with the once the light goes into place, it's going to decrease. There was concern from the assistant city manager about lowering the speed limit because when you have a long thoroughfare like that, it usually people don't follow it if you just lower it, which is why the light was better. But I can talk to him again. He's the one that does engineering with the city and has more concrete facts on what works and what doesn't as far as traffic flow and speed limits. So that's something I can raise with him again and see if we can get it lowered. Was there anyone else?
Yes, Grace, Shonda again.
Mm-hmm.
So if the speed bumps go on Rosa Parks and they go on Tramview, then that makes it a free thoroughfare for Gateway, which then all the traffic's gonna come on that side, and people are just gonna avoid those two streets. So how is that something that we're just going to have to put in for speed bumps later and just see how it goes, or is that something that we can get ahead of now and put in a request for speed bumps as well?
You could put in a request for it now. I can find out the exact process. Dixie, I think, also knows the process because she's helped now for two streets. Yeah, that's something that you could do now. Again, you have to get the neighbors all to agree, and that's why it's a little bit harder, because sometimes people are not interested in doing it when there's not a problem, even though I totally understand what you're getting at, is that it's very likely to become a problem.
It's a problem now already.
Yeah. Oh, it is a problem now already.
Yeah,
okay.
it is a problem now already.
Yeah, so that's something that can be done. You can go to the neighbors, and we can send out the ballots to vote and move that process forward. And I can get you an update too on when those speed bumps are supposed to go in.
Thank you.
I think someone had a question. I think Eric, did you have a question? Did I see that?
Hi, Grace. Yes, I actually do have a question in regards to the budget. As you know, I'm with the Equity Partnership, and we've just been advocating to the city for more robust access to rent programs, rent assistance programs. Right, the moratorium was definitely a huge win, but essentially, right, we've been meeting with different partners on what are to assess what are the other needs besides rent and assistance and stuff like that. So I just want to know if it would be possible for the city to match other programs on health and human services that are indirectly related to COVID, right? And so one of the things that one of our partners has been saying, and I actually saw him at the Juneteenth event, which is really cool, this Saturday. So it's called the Building Resilience in African American Families. They have a program, right, that it's parenting girls and boys programs. So I was wondering if maybe the city would be interested in matching funds. I know it's a county program, but you know, one of our partners kind of echoed that, yeah, more youth programs are needed in the West Valley to keep our youth active, right? We know that you know, this cutting of schools has also cut programming, after school programs that keep our kids busy, right? And now some of them are, you know, doing fireworks and stuff and doing all kinds of things, you know, that are not keeping them busy. And so my question is would the city be interested in continuing to, or in matching funds for youth programs and maybe other youth, another renting assistance programs such that are happening, such as TODIC, I know has residents, members in Palm Springs that are, you know, also asking about relief. So there's funding available that I think the cities can definitely match it, just different programs. I know Edwin's here. He could speak a little bit about his intake on, you know, what he had with as a need in their city in regards to PBB. But I was just, yeah, wanting to pivot the conversation that way, a city matching funds for youth programs and rent assistance.
I agree with Eric. District 1, as you all know, we're actually the parks district too. When you think about it, we have the 2 largest community centers and parks, you know. So our youth need those, you know, those resources in order to do what we need to do. But obviously with COVID-19, we do have our limitations, right? I said in my question in the group, in the chat, that there are a lot of items here that are being discussed. I don't know if the neighborhood organizations are already handling them. I don't want to, you know, Grace, if you're getting this twice, I don't know why you're getting it twice or thrice, because, you know, we could complain to you about the police all the time, but the reality is that, you know, these things you are handling, and like I totally support what you're doing, but I don't know. I guess this question is, do you envision this District 1, this is the first time we're meeting, right? Do you envision this process, you know, how do you see this going forward? Because you know what, all the neighborhood organizations are gonna come to you with the same complaints. And I'm gonna say it straight up, that's how it is. Because we already hear it in the neighborhood organizations. Should we be duplicating, you know, is it because people are really upset that things aren't getting done? Maybe that's the case, but like, I really, really feel that as District 1, we have a very, very strong, like, huge community to handle. We literally wrap around, you know, when we were part of districting the city, this district really literally hugs the whole city. You know, we're like the gateways, you know, the district next to 2 as well. So how do you see this happening? What do you see going forward? You know, we could talk to you about money. We could talk to you about, you know, speed bumps. We could talk to you about cannabis, because we could talk about the air quality and environmental racism as much as we can, and we want to. But how do you see this going forward, Grace?
Sure. You know, I appreciate that. I'm going to answer that, and then I'm going to get back to you, Eric, about youth programs. So I do think that this initial meeting was supposed to just get us a chance to kind of connect, and I purposely didn't set a specific agenda for it because I wanted to just hear where everybody was at. And I thought that it was important to kind of give you all the floor in that way. But moving forward, yeah, I would love to be able to set up these meetings in a way to discuss certain issues. So if there's a particular issue that we really need to dive into, to go ahead and do that. Or if we can have a meeting where we have more of a visioning session on saying, hey, you know, let's not worry about what the budget is right now. What is it that we want our Palm Springs to look like? What is it that we prioritize for ourselves and for the city and for the community? So I think there's a lot of ways that these can go. And I would really like to be able to do that as we move forward, is focus the conversations so that we can kind of figure it out. Because I think that sometimes having some discussion about what it is that we value can really lead us to building a better budget, for instance. And, you know, a lot of you are raising things right now, and I'm thinking, oh goodness, you know, that's something that we we thought maybe people didn't care about as much, but now I'm seeing that you are. And so it's important. Yeah, Maribel just wrote, budget reflects our values. And absolutely, that's exactly what it does. So I do want to encourage, though, anybody that has concerns about our budget right now, which I know there are many, and we have our meeting on Thursday. All of this information that you're giving me, I will be, using for myself. But if anyone has the capacity to also send an email to me, which I can send around to the city clerk for all of our council members to see, that's always super helpful for us. I just want to encourage that. In terms of youth programming, I fought really hard to make sure that we could fund youth programming in this budget. Initially, there were big cuts to it, and I really pushed to make sure that could happen. I don't know what the capacity is for us right now to be matching funds. This Thursday meeting is going to be a big discussion, I know. And so the more people we hear from, that's really going to shape where it goes. So yeah, again, I just encourage you, if you want us to do those types of things, please let us know. It's a lot harder for me as one person to say, hey, this would be really great. I can push for it, but what really sways other council members is when they actually have tangible things in their hands of people telling them these different things and saying, hey, this is what we want. Because even though I represent District 1 and I'm always raising District 1 things, but I still have 4 other people that have to agree with me too, which is why it's helpful. Because you can send me an email and I send it to the city clerk, and then it gets distributed to all of the council members and they get to read it for themselves, which is really helpful. But again, I'll always make sure that I tell people during the council meetings, I spoke to residents, this is what they were saying in District 1. And let me see, there was some issues regarding noise. So in terms of noise, hopefully you're not having too many issues with noise other than the fireworks, because there aren't any events right now. However, I do know that a lot of you were concerned about Splash House and other events at the Air Museum prior to all of this. And so I do want to let you know that I was working really closely with Splash House before COVID. We actually had a meeting right before we got the shutdown orders, because they were going to be in the process of building a wall to help with blocking sound, and they had gotten more in sound blocking devices. And so they were really, really concerned about the sound and wanting to make sure that it was addressed. And they were working really hard on that. So I know that they're bummed that their event isn't going to get to go forward, but I do think once those events take place, they've been putting in a great amount of work. I have planned that when those events come back, that I would go and be there at the event to see what it's like, and to also go into the different neighborhoods so that I can hear for myself if there's any problems or not as well, because I think it's helpful if I can have firsthand knowledge of it along with you. So we'll see kind of how it goes as things move forward, but they are working really hard to mitigate the sound, and we have different people coming in to give independent opinions about what they're doing as well, to make sure that it's actually fixing the problem and not going to have a big impact.
Grace?
Yes.
Before COVID and before the budget crisis, the city was going to work on the noise ordinance. And one of the really important issues in the noise ordinance is some city control over bass.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't necessarily noise with events. It's that the bass notes are heavier and they carry into different neighborhoods depending on wind conditions.
Yes.
So I just want to say that I still think that work on the noise ordinance is critical to dealing with these issues, and not just the goodwill of Splash House. I mean, I know they reached out to Asina, but there's more to that issue than just working with a specific vendor.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is still on the table, the noise ordinance, and the bass is something that we talked about. And so far, what's been great is that all of the different people that have events in the city, we've been reaching out to them, and they have been very responsive. And so we're going to make sure that when we get to the noise ordinance, which I'm hopeful that now that the budget's going to be passed soon, that we can get back to this other things. But I do think that we're going to be able to craft a noise ordinance that addresses all of these different issues so that we're holding everybody accountable, regardless of if they've been playing nice or not. So that is on the table. Yes.
Can I?
Great.
Can
In
I
addition,
finish?
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah,
finish your question, which is, I think the other question that's really important for our district is race relations and a review of police practices. I know it's, from my experience, it's disparate between the community I live in and other communities that are treated much harsher than we are. I'm wondering what the plans are for that review.
Sure. So that's something that I'm leading up with our city council, and it is really important that we address these issues. And one of the first things that we're kind of looking at is making sure that we're having listening sessions with the community to start to bring forth all of the different concerns that we have, because some of the concerns we know about, some of them we don't, and we want to make sure that we're engaging the community on this because it is a really important issue. There's also some different things that I know I'm going to ask for at this next meeting. There's been a real big desire for the Lawrence Crossley neighborhood to actually have their street named Lawrence Crossley. And so I want to raise that at the council meeting to have that on our next agenda to discuss. And part of that is, you know, symbols are important, but we also need actual policy change. But sometimes when we talk about symbols, it can lead the discussion as well and can kind of bring more things out. So it's something that we can do to just start to kick off the conversation, so to speak. But those conversations are going to be happening. I know that I have been asking for lots of information from our police department to find out what their practices are, what the impact is to the community, who's being pulled over and why. I requested the last 5 years of information regarding 911 calls and calls for service generally. You know, what is it that our residents are actually asking for? And what is it that our police are responding to? Because as we've discussed before, who's the better person to respond to certain issues? Are we getting a flood of concerns that are really code compliance? Or is it that police need to be sent? So we're going through all of that. The police chief has also been really wonderful and to work with us on this. He's been very open, which I appreciate. So I'm definitely asking all of those questions, compiling that information and making sure that we can move forward in a positive way. So yeah, that's definitely happening.
Grace,
yes.
If I could circle back to the noise ordinance just for a moment. Thank you for your comments, and I appreciate the mitigation work that's been discussed, particularly with Splash House. But I understand that there was an appetite among some of the city council members even to raise the decibel limit of the noise ordinance. Are you hearing that? And if so, can you speak to that?
You know what? I have not heard that. No one's told me anything about raising decibels. That's not something that I'm supportive of. I think we've heard enough from residents that that's plenty loud as it is. I know that I've been to, you know, loud events like this, and I can't imagine it being louder. maybe I'm probably not the target demographic if I think that, but I have not heard that from other council members. Of course, I can't speak for them, but I would hope that that's not the case.
Thank you.
Grace?
Yes.
Hi, this is Travis at Palermo. How you doing? I have a couple comments or questions to you. One, you know, about the police. You know, we have this police advisory council that is completely non-reflective of our community and is pretty much just like a good old boys and girls club, in my opinion. And I would hope that the council looks at that. I know that those people are appointed by the police chief, but they should be an avenue for some of these things we're talking about. And I don't really know what they do. And as a commissioner on a city board, I do think there should be some more oversight from the council of who's on these, you know, other kinds of quasi boards or whatever they are, you know. But going back to the question about, you know, how going forward, one thing I'd really like to see in your discussions is tell us what projects are coming forward, because, you know, we've been talking about San Rafael and Indian Canyon. To my knowledge, no one at Palermo was ever noticed of that development. Maybe we're out of the 500 feet or whatever it is, but there's, you know, residential going kitty corner, affordable housing. There's a housing project on the other side, and it's a terrible place to put something like that when we need, you know, we're kind of in a food desert out here too. And so that's done. I don't know if anything can be done about that, but any way that we could get notification when you have our meetings of projects like that coming up, to get heads up would be really super terrific.
Sure. So that's one thing that I had put up on Facebook, if anybody wanted to be on a mailing list to sign up, and that still stands. It's one of the things that's really challenging for all of the council members is that we don't have we don't have individual staff support. So for instance, if I put out a newsletter or something like that, I have to do it myself, and it makes it a little bit more difficult. So that's why I'm still trying to figure out what the best platform is and the cost that it will be. And that's also not a city cost. That has to be a personal cost to me. So it's something that I have to just figure out. But what I'm doing right now is collecting those emails of people who are interested in having updates, because I would like to be able to do that, is send email updates. I know that Facebook isn't the greatest method for a lot of people, especially because the algorithm doesn't always show you what I'm posting, and you might get it late, which isn't helpful. So please do. I mean, I'll obviously have a note of everybody who's been on this, and I can just automatically kind of add you to that email list, and we can move forward there. But yeah, I'll figure out the best way to make sure that we get some more updates to District 1 residents.
All right. My other comment, I know there's been some chatter about Palermo and the fence, and I do want to let people know that you know, we've been through numerous developers who have approached the current landowners. They're not really developers, and the deals keep falling through for various reasons. But we've been told that the latest deal should go in escrow next month. We've heard that 4 or 5 times with other developers, but the current person looking at it is has a great reputation, and was near escrow, and then COVID happened and is still continuing with it. The HOA is not responsible for that fence at all. That's not our property. But I do want people to understand, and we have sent a letter to the city, our lawyers have sent a letter to the city, a copy letter that we sent to these landowners. So this is something we've been dealing with for 10 years, literally. But I do want people to understand, you know, obviously they're not taking care of the fence how it should be, but if the city had an edict that fence is gone, the whole south end of Palermo is not walled anymore. Regardless of what people think about gated or ungated communities, that would expose the community to some risks. So that's something I wanted to express to you, that it's not as easy just taking the fence down.
Right, yeah. And then I know that the city is in discussion with the landowners to try to get something permanent up. And it's, unfortunately, as Travis said, it's a bigger process than we had anticipated. Dixie had a question about time. Is there a time estimate for body cameras for police? That is something that we're in discussion with them about right now. It's already been something that was approved, and it just needs to be purchased. And I believe it's on the list for Thursday's meeting to move forward with purchasing those body cameras. There was a question about the homelessness funding. We have now received the 10 million for homelessness funding. And so now it's the matter of spending it and working on that. So that's going to be something that we'll get more updates on soon. I know Christy Holstage, Mayor Pro Tem, and our Mayor Jeff Kors are the ones that know all of the nitty gritty on how that's moving forward. And so we'll be able to get updates from them soon, but it's just, you know, been given to us. So it's still in the very beginnings of the process. So yes, but I do want to, one thing that I do want to just point out as well with getting in touch with all of you, if anyone does have suggestions or ideas of the best way to communicate with folks, please do let me know. I know that I try to do different methods as best I can, which is also why I'm very big on giving my phone number to people as well, because I want to be able to reach you in the best way for you. And as someone else said, not everyone's on Facebook. I agree. If it were up to me, I wouldn't be on Facebook either. But some of you are, and so I'm on Facebook. So I do my best to try to reach out in a lot of different ways. But if there's a way that I'm missing and people are wanting me to reach out on that medium too, please do let me know so that I can try to work that in as well. I think, Edwin, you have your hand raised.
I did actually. It's actually just a question about how the district was mapped. Also, since you were talking about Lawrence Crossley, we do have to also revisit that because part of Lawrence Crossley is not in District 1. So that's just one thing to just remember.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something that when we redo so just to let everyone know, the way that the districts are right now is not necessarily the way they will be for the 2022 election. Because once we get census data next year, then everything will be adjusted. And then we have to go through a full process on that again. It could just be adjusted slightly. It could be a larger adjustment, but that is part of the law in California. It's called the Fair Maps Act, and it does require a full review again of any districting that's taken place. So it's gonna happen pretty soon.
A plug I want to give also for Grace. Grace and Christy Holstage are the chairs of the Census Committee. I want to make sure that everyone fills out their Census 2020. Just a reminder, a gentle reminder.
Please.
Money
please,
for our community.
So. Yes, absolutely. Because if you fill out the census, the more people that fill out the census, the more funding we can get. And we've had some pretty low funding lately from the federal government. So I do hope that we can get more this next round. Let's see, I want to be mindful of time because I know it's 7. So if there's another question, David?
Can I bring something up? Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, Grace, I'm David. I talked to you earlier. I wanted to readdress the Palermo once again. I'm the one that did the Facebook posting in the neighborhood group last week that started quite the dialogue. And it's something I've been pressing for the last couple of years as a homeowner across the street. I'm the one that calls the fence company each week to report that the fence is down or that the tarps are torn. But I really want to hear, because I've been approached by the news media to do a feature story, an investigative story on this. And I really want to get the facts real clear before I speak to anyone further about it. But from you, which is one of the reasons why I tuned in today, to see really where we are with this thing, because there's been a lot of finger pointing over the last several years, and a temporary fence is really temporary, and it's been up for several years. And it's become an eyesore. It's become a dumping ground, and it's now becoming a safety issue because, with the fence being blown over, so there's easy access to the Palermo. I just want to know exactly what is going on because I've talked to the current owner or investor of the property who's in escrow for the umpteenth time in the last few years to try and get this thing closed. And he said, he's proposed numerous times to the city to get a wall built, but the city keeps coming back and denying his plans. And so he's saying now he won't do a wall until after it sells, and he's going to do a holdback of funds from the sale of the property, which in all likelihood may not happen at this point because they keep extending escrow on this last purchaser because of the corona. But I really want to know because it's really, I think it's a real eyesore to the city. It's bringing property values down. I'm a real estate investor myself, and the first thing realtors and potential buyers say in considering purchasing at the Palermo is, what is the deal with that awful site out in front? It's really a pit. And I just think with the amount of traffic that comes in and out of Palm Springs from tourists leaving and coming into our community on San Rafael, I just think it would be so much more important to have something of a permanent structure, something that is more representative of the community we have. But after so many years, something really needs to happen. And I just don't, I've been pushing this for a couple of years now, as well as my neighbors and friends. And I've just said, I'm going to spearhead this thing and push it till we finally get something resolved with it. So I appreciate finally hearing from you on this last week and from the city manager and all of that. But just to keep saying the same sort of answer, we are currently trying to enforce code compliance to get the wall built. But that's the same thing my neighbors and residents have said they've been hearing for years. So really, where does this stand now at this time, and what is going to finally get resolved with this?
Right. So it has been a problem forever, and it's very frustrating. It's one of the things that I asked about right away when I signed up, when I started on council, because it was something that I heard a lot about when I was campaigning. And yes, it is in the code enforcement process. And I know that is such a frustrating answer. It is, and because of the different issues with the sale and everything, it slows things down because like you've said, people don't want to put up the fence. And as far as the city not approving fences in the past, I don't know about that because I wasn't here for that. Mm-hmm. And no one told me that if that's, so I can't speak to that. And I can find out. I can definitely ask for the history of it. I do know.
Yes,
that,
I think it's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll find out the history on it. I do know that when I requested that we do something about the fencing there, it was one of those things that I was reached with is it always got pushed to the side because there wasn't anybody talking about it enough. So for me, I said, okay, well, I know that people are talking about it because I'm hearing about it from community members. Mm-hmm. So I've been regularly asking, for updates, and I actually tried to get an update right before this meeting earlier today, but people were tied up in meetings who had the information.
Well, I think we need to get information on this because just to keep saying that we're enforcing the code compliance, but after so many years, and the owner says, I'm not doing anything, but I keep getting these threatening letters from the city of Palm Springs that they're going to take legal action. But when do you all take legal action, and when do you enforce code compliance on a wall?
Right. And that's the big question is I think that we can, that I can ask, that I can raise in our next closed session meeting is asking, hey, can we do it now? And that's a question for our city attorney to find out exactly to make sure we fulfilled all of the requirements that we need to make before we move forward legally. But I'll raise it this Thursday.
Grace, this is Travis. So, I appreciate David's concern about our property values, supposedly. We are a community at Palermo, a great community, a wonderful community, a thriving community. It is. And what makes this difference, first of all, setting aside that this is all happening during a pandemic, whether this is appropriate time and we're weeks away from escrow closing, setting all that aside, what makes Palermo different than any construction fencing is that this is a living community here. Other fencing that's been up down the street, there's nobody living in there. So if the city takes action to remove the fencing, then what is the city's responsibility toward the residents of Palermo?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. And I think that that's the kind of thing that needs to be discussed at our meeting on Thursday. I think these are closed session issues, and the things that are in closed session are things that are relate to liability, legal liability for the city, which is why it wouldn't be discussed publicly. But things that are discussed within closed session, I always try to ask, what is it that I can share with the community? So I'll make sure that I find out what it is that I am allowed to share with you all. But I
hope so.
I know that
it's just getting frustrating after so many years of this. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree with you. It is frustrating. And I know, like Travis said, this is all around issues that people are working on. So I know that, I'm mindful of the time. I don't want to keep people too late, although if there's more questions, I'm happy to answer them. And just a reminder that this is recorded. And so this will be on the YouTube page. So if anybody does need to jump off, you can always watch it later to see what else came up. But I think I'm happy to go until 7:30 and then we can wrap up.
Grace,
This is Mark
I
from
may make
Messina.
a
Just want to say thank you. We appreciate the format. It's difficult for all of us. It's nice to have this ability to communicate with you and our fellow District 1 residents. Hope to see many more of them. And again, just a reminder to folks, always come prepared. Maybe email your questions in advance to Grace so she can come prepared to answer, and be respectful of everyone in terms of, what's the issue, what do you want, and what's the expectation. So thanks a lot. Appreciate the time.
Sure. Roy, did you have something?
Roy, you have to unmute. There you go.
Yes, I do. I just wanted to circle back to the noise ordinance. Actually, there had been a study session scheduled for March 26th to discuss the noise ordinance. And 1PS has a subcommittee that had been working hard, and we've been interfacing with the previous subcommittee on the noise ordinance. So hopefully that study session will be rescheduled soon once things get a little bit back more toward normal.
Absolutely. We have a list of study sessions that we're hoping to get moving on.
And thank you very much for your time this evening. I thought it was very effective.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else?
Yes, Grace, I have a comment regarding the Palermo fence. It's true, this has been an issue that's concerned the area for a long time, and it comes up at our meetings. I had a conversation with the planning department regarding asking them to put in a wall around there, getting the owners of the property to put in a wall and take down the fence. And they were very clear that they would love to see that happen. So I was surprised to hear that the owner has told others that they're not being allowed to. So it'd be interesting to find out what that is. And it really came to a head when Lisa Middleton was able to get a development down at the south end of town on Palm Canyon. Now, I believe Toll Brothers bought the property, but the previous owners, the city was able to get them to build a wall and fence around it while they put the property up for sale, which really did help the aesthetics, because it too had a temporary fence and looked bad for a while. And one of the comments that Lisa Middleton made at one of the 1PS meetings regarding that is they would like to be able to do that with more developments. However, many of the developments predate the efforts of trying to put those into initial agreements. So that's where a lot of the challenges came.
Right, definitely. And I think there's new challenges here, like Travis said, regarding the land actually being in escrow. So there's a lot going on. And but yes, for the future properties, these are things that are being discussed ahead of time so that we don't get to this point later.
Grace, I have one more question. Well, one, just about the fence. The developer did have plans for a wall. They're very difficult to deal with. They came back and said the city wouldn't do this or that about elevations, and then they also approached the HOA to give them a loan to pay for the $50,000 to put the wall up. So, if you want to talk offline, there's a lot of history. But I do have a question about these meetings going forward. Is this for District 1 residents or just anyone interested in talking to you?
This is for District 1 primarily. So I will say anybody that wants to jump on is free to do that throughout Palm Springs. I'm happy to have you here. I will say that as we move forward, if we're finding that there are a lot of residents from other districts, that I would just ask that District 1 residents have a priority and able to get their questions out first and get their comments in and have everyone else be a little bit more wallflowers instead. But yeah, primarily for the focus is District 1.
Grace, a question for you on the community centers. How much of their programming is going to be able to be saved in this budget? And what will be lost in the way of youth activities?
At the moment, the current budget has us with almost full funding for our community centers. And that's really positive. And again, things might change at this meeting. We'll see. But yeah, it's almost fully funded.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Oh, Grace, I forgot to introduce myself as the Public Arts Commissioner. And this district has been approved for some art projects. So if anybody in the district has any ideas or would love to give feedback on art projects that can beautify our neighborhood, I'm the person to come to, as well as the other arts commissioners. But I would love, and I'd be more than happy to help anyone in our community with getting more art in our neighborhood.
Thank you, Shonda. And along those lines, now again is the time that we're going to start focusing more on getting our commissions up and running, which they've all been most of them have been on pause lately. And so that's going to be starting up. If anybody is interested or knows someone who's interested in applying for a commission, I really encourage you to do that. Christy and I have been working on getting people in, and we're really mindful as well of making sure that we have residents from each district represented on these commissions. So please do let us know, fill out an application. That's one of the other study sessions that's supposed to be upcoming, is how we can make sure our boards and commissions are as effective as possible and really serving the community. But there's a lot of, I think, excitement from both Christy and I on that, and what we can do to engage people in a better way.
Grace, some questions that have come up from the District 1 businesses that we've met with. Their big concerns are obviously Indian Canyon and also the railroad bridge, which the railroad bridge has been funded and approved, and they've asked about updates, but also they ask about specifically, can Indian Canyon be redesignated as an emergency access route so that it would be eligible for state and federal funding for a low water crossing bridge, so that it would be possible to keep that access open. Obviously, Desert Hot Springs is very interested in this as well, but also all the District 1 businesses. This is probably one of their, along with the utility services, keeping Indian Canyon has been a really big issue for them. Any updates or any thoughts on that? Thank you.
Yeah, I would have loved to find out if we can do that, redesignating it, because the last I was told was that we just don't have funding, and we're trying to figure out how to get the funding to make it happen, which is really frustrating, I know. So let me ask our city manager and city attorney about that, about if redesignating the road and maybe working with Desert Hot Springs on that as well can kind of move that process along. I know the census, again, the census information is going to be really helpful with this too. Knowing how many people are using that road to access the hospital and other things like that can really help move things along. And someone asked just how to apply for commissions. If you go onto the city's website and type in commissions, you'll get to a page of board and commissions, and there's an application there. Let's see. Anyone else? I have a kitten back here who's meowing. I guess she wants to participate. All right, well, if that's it, I just want to thank you all for being here. I really, really appreciate it. And my friend Lauren has been taking notes, so I'm gonna be able to make sure that I get answers to any of the questions that I didn't have specific answers for you. Travis, I'll definitely give you a shout out so that we can chat more about Palermo and doing what we can there. But yeah, I'll definitely let you all know what the updates are, and start to get out our District 1 newsletter, which I'll try not to spam you all too much, but at least try to get you some monthly information, and if not more. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Grace.
All right. Bye, everyone. And feel free again to call. Again, the number for those who want it is 760-285-4902. Bye, everyone.
Bye.